welcome to MASHmouth, a podcast covering every single episode of the hit 1970s sitcom MASH. I'm Ethan.
And I'm Vanessa.
Vanessa, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm, I say it all the time because I don't know what else to say during these intros. I'm doing pretty well, having a good time watching MASH. I enjoyed this one a lot. We're going to have a good time talking about it. Love a good detective kind of story, and this kind of was. But before that, today I want to talk a little about theme songs, because theme songs are, I think, the cornerstone of a good television program. In our modern age, they're kind of disappearing. So, do you have any favorite theme songs, like notable ones that kind of stick in your head? Maybe other than the MASH instrumental?
So, I really loved the Nanny theme song. That one was so good, and the little animation in the beginning too was so cute, and I don't know, it's just so original. I loved that. I think the Golden Girls as well, even though that was like a genuine song.
Mm-hmm.
And then to be basic, I also really like the Big Bang Theory.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Some bare naked ladies,
yes.
baby.
Oh my God, when I found that out, I was so thrilled because the bare naked ladies are so fun to listen to. I was like, this tracks. I love this. Those are definitely my favorites. Oh, and of course, like Three's Company. That song got stuck in my head so much when I would watch that show all the time. I would sing that all the time. I love that one.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for mentioning The Nanny. The Nanny is one of those shows for me that I do like whenever I see it, but whenever I don't see it in my field of vision, I forget that it exists.
Yeah.
I do like that show. I've watched a lot of that show on Nick at Night. Apparently that show is huge in Australia, by the way.
Oh, that's so funny.
That is a defining sitcom in Australian culture, as far as I'm aware. And that theme song is great because it is the whole story of the show, and I love that kind of thing where it's like, here's the backstory of our show presented in every episode before it starts. Here you go. For me personally, I think one of my favorite theme songs would have to be the theme to Community. I love that show. I talked about that. That was my MASH when we were in high school. I've kind of outgrown Community a little bit as I've gotten older, but that theme song is so dark, but so cheery. It's so bizarre. If you look into the lyrics of it, it's basically a guy talking to himself, like convincing himself to commit suicide.
Oh my God.
And it's like this wild thing. It's so cheery and so uplifting, but also it's like hang the rope, tie it to a tree. Like, it's wild, and I don't know why. And it's so like weirdly fitting for that bizarre tonal experience of a show that is Community. I highly recommend that you look into it. Maybe I'm misinterpreting the lyrics, but it's a dark theme song, and I think that's really fun for a very goofy show that Community is.
Yeah, just like the same thing with like Suicide is Painless for MASH. It's just like, oh, this really dark theme song, and then the story behind it that we covered with it doesn't mean anything really. I always like those when it's like a sitcom and it's supposed to be funny, and then there's like this really like dark tonal shift. It's just like, where did that come from? Like, what the heck? So yeah, no, I definitely feel that.
Yeah. Theme songs are cool, and I'm kind of sad that they're mostly going to like 5-second instrumentals now, because like everybody just skips theme songs on Netflix now, so they don't put effort into making like a good theme song for a comedy show now.
Yeah.
Except for like Brooklyn Nine-Nine as well has like this great intro, because that's just instrumental, but it's so loud and energetic that like when they do the cold opens and then cut to the theme song, the cold open becomes funnier because the juxtaposition of the sudden music. It's really good.
Yeah, I do like that.
Enough about theme songs. We got stuff to talk about. So Vanessa, this episode was episode 10, I Hate Mysteries. What was this one about?
This one was actually called I Hate a Mystery. It was a play on words.
Oh, no.
So in this episode, it's kind of like a whodunit mystery episode. So after a rash of thefts begin happening around the camp, all signs point to Hawkeye as being the culprit. But when Hawkeye is threatened with being court-martialed for having stolen goods in his possession, he devises a plan to find out who the real thief is. And we find out who the real thief is at the end, of course. What did you think about this episode?
I like this one. I like detective kind of things, so I enjoyed Hawkeye trying to figure out who did this, like kind of playing detective a little bit. And it was kind of a genuine mystery. Like, you didn't know.
Yeah.
It wasn't like Cowboy, where it was, hey, here's the new guy. Do you think that the new guy for this episode is the bad guy? Like, they did kind of just leave it. Like, you can probably figure it out if you know it going in, right? But they did give like a proper, like, all right, we're setting this up. We don't know who did it, and it's somebody that we know.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's unravel. It was pretty good. What do you think of it?
So I really liked this one as well. This was so, I don't know, I liked how fun it was. And I liked that the plot kind of started right away. There wasn't really a preamble into, oh, what's this plot going to be? It just kind of started like right outright with Frank having his picture frame stolen. I don't know, like then it just kind of tumbled from there into, you know, oh, more people have their stuff stolen and this and that and the other thing. And I don't know, I really liked how it just started out running. I don't know, I just really liked that.
No, it was funny because this opened with the guys playing poker, right?
Mm-hmm.
Frank comes in and he realizes that this like silver frame that he had a picture of his mother in, which like he apparently loves his mom, and no shame to people who do love their mom, like it's fine, but it is like, of course Frank Burns is like a mama's boy.
It's kind of strange though, like he didn't have a picture of his wife up in the silver frame. He had a picture of his mom.
That he is married.
You know, yeah, I know.
He's a cheating little man.
Yeah, it's so funny too. It's so like hypocritically funny that in the beginning Frank's reading this Bible and it's just like, okay, dude, yeah, sure.
And Larry Linville's delivery of when the frame is stolen and he goes to like Hawkeye and Trapper and the whole gang playing poker, like, you know, 5 feet away. He's like, come on, you guys. Like, he tried to think of an insult, but like, you guys. It was so funny. And I wish that I was a better vocal performer so I could like deliver the way that he delivered it. Just his genuine, like, I want to say something, but I cannot think of it. It felt very natural. Like, I don't know if he flubbed the line or whatever, but it worked. I loved his little performance in that line. We might hate Frank Burns, but Larry Linville's good.
Yeah, we love Larry Linville. So after Frank realizes that his picture frame is stolen, he goes to Margaret, of course, because like who else is he going to go to? That's his only friend in the camp. And this is kind of an aside from the plot, but so she's doing her skincare routine and he comes in and he's like, you look awful. Yeah. That was so mean. And so right before that though, Hawkeye and Trapper, they were like kind of making sexual comments about Margaret and they called her Hot Lips. And he was like, you know, her name's Margaret. I was like, yeah, Frank, that's right. Call her Margaret. And then he's like, you look awful. Oh, that was so mean. But
that joke with her having the face mask on was so 70s joke to me.
Yes,
that was just
exactly.
Pure, like, hey, isn't it weird women wear makeup sometimes? Whoa!
I noted down in my notes to the episode, like, that's such an old school. I guess it's like a little bit like kind of sexist, but even so, it's so funny, this type of joke that's like, oh, you can't look anything but perfect in front of your guy. And then like fast forward to the 21st century, there's all these memes about, you know, guys and their girlfriends doing skincare routines together. And I don't know, I just think that that's so funny. Like, it just struck me as like
such an old
funny
joke.
Like such a funny old joke. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, where it's like, here's our beautiful woman, but if you see her past sundown, she's got like this crazy face mask on, like, oh no, it takes work to look nice. Who would have thought?
Exactly. So then after Frank goes into Margaret's tent and tells her that she looks bad, he says to her, you know, what happened. And then she finds out that her brushes that her father gave her are gone. So she's all upset. So that's when you get the sense that, okay, this is definitely going to be the plot of the episode, that things are going to go missing. This can't be just a coincidence.
Mm-hmm. And then it cuts to like everybody around camp. It cuts to Henry, who's like with Leslie again, and was like, hey, it's Leslie. Just found out your name last week, and here you are again. Nice continuity, baby. But it cuts to Henry and Leslie. Henry's giving Leslie like a gift, which again, he is a married man. I know it works for the show, but when you think of that, you're like, oh man, these poor people cheating on their significant others, like it's no big deal. But anyway, he tries to give Leslie a gift and it's stolen out from under him, and it's like, what? Then we go to maybe some other stuff happens, but the one that I like remember and stuck out to me was that Hawkeye is like lying down and Ho-John's like making him like a martini with their still, and Hawkeye is like going through like, here we have the serenade of making a martini, and he goes through all these like musical instruments as martini ingredients, and the final one is like, now the charm of a swizzle stick, and there's nothing, and he's like, charm of a swizzle stick. Who took my swizzle stick? Swizzle stick is such a funny word.
I know, I loved that. I thought that was so funny too, that line when Hawkeye is kind of narrating the sounds of gin being made. I just loved that. It was so classic MASH for me. And then Ho-John is like, it's not here. I don't know what to do with it.
I actually noted down, and we'll say this like all the time, but I thought Alan Alda's performance in this one was so good. Alan Alda continues to be a legend. Like, I love him as Hawkeye. I want to check him out in other things. I want to see some of the movies he's done, because I want to see his range, because he's so good in this sitcom role that I know this man has more to him, you know?
Watch him in ER. He was absolutely amazing in that role. He was also in And the Band Played On, which is one of my favorite pieces of media and at all. And he was amazing in that role as well. So I would definitely check him out in other things and serious things. He's really, really good.
Yeah.
So after it becomes apparent that there's been a rash of thefts and it's not just like a one-off kind of thing, Henry calls a meeting in the mess tent and gives the thief an opportunity to kind of like give everything back and whatnot. They turn the lights off and they're like, okay, you have 30 seconds to give all the stuff back. And then when they turn the lights on, of course, more stuff is stolen. And I just thought that was so funny, like such a sitcom kind of moment.
When the lights were off, they made jokes about like everybody touching each other and like poking and like just kind of being weird. And it was funny, but I was like, are these guys children? Like the lights are off for 10 seconds and somebody's like, Trapper, stop touching me. And it's like, no, I'm not touching you. I'm over here. It's like, these guys just cannot control themselves in any way, can they?
I know. It's just like, okay, guys, it's 10 seconds. Like, be an adult for 10 seconds. It's funny. So after that, though, when more stuff is stolen, Henry says, okay, like, that's enough. I have to go through the entire camp with radar, and I'm not going to leave anything unturned. Of course, shenanigans ensue. There's a great shot of Henry checking the shower head because as if stolen goods are going to be in the shower head. Yeah, exactly. And then, of course, he gets sprayed with the shower water and stuff. It's funny. And then he checks Radar's bunk. And this is the first time we see Radar's teddy bear. And it's so cute. I
literally screamed. I was like, there it is! Because I know that our listeners who are just on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever, like, can't see it. But in our podcast start, my character is holding that teddy bear. And I was like, there he is! So, yeah. I was very excited to see him. Radar was so embarrassed. He was like, oh cute. Man, secretly have a teddy bear. And that teddy bear becomes like a thing for him. So it was so nice. That was like when we saw Klinger for the first time. I was like, Klinger! It was
the teddy bear is literally like a character. He was like a character in the show. I love it.
He's a lad.
Then, of course, Henry gets to Hawkeye and Trapper's tent. This scene coming up, the scene when Henry gets soot all over his face. So he goes to Trapper. He's like, what's in here? And I guess it's like the furnace, whatever
just
it is.
Like a pipe.
Yeah. And he's like, what's in here? And Trapper's like, soot. That's it. So Henry's like, yeah, I'll be the judge of that. And he gets soot all over his face. So you see then Trapper and Hawkeye just laughing hysterically.
Their mind. Like,
so
Hawkeye
funny.
has this crazy Joker laugh for like,
oh my God,
so long. And it's not just like a quick thing. They laugh for like the remainder of that scene. It's
you
so long.
You could tell it was so genuine too. It was so funny. Like Alan Alda was seriously going out of his mind with this laugh.
Wild.
It was so funny. This is honestly one of my favorite MASH scenes. When I think of this show, I think of this scene a lot. And I would like to say this is also my mom's favorite scene because Alan Alda's deliverance of that laugh is so funny.
So
and then he
good.
continues.
Like, that made me be like, Alan Alda should play the Joker for a minute just to hear that laugh.
What's so funny is that then he just he continues to laugh through his like the delivery of his lines, and it's so funny, and it just plays. I assume that it was a genuine laugh, and it just continues to feel so genuine that it was just such a funny moment.
I mean, Henry has this ridiculous like amount of just caked on like black powder. You're gonna look at that and laugh. It was a great moment, and I love that it went on so long.
It was good.
But things take a turn for the worst, as our boys are like, it's a waste of time, don't worry about, like, you're completely, like, screwing it up, Henry. Hawkeye opens his like, chest, I don't know what to describe it as. Okay, he opens that up, and it's just all the stolen goods, and he just immediately shuts it. Would anybody like a drink?
Yeah, that was so funny, because you're not, at least for me, you're not really expecting it. I would say
he had his swizzle stick stolen. He was a victim as well.
Exactly. So you're not really expecting it. And of course, the audience knowing Hawkeye, like, oh yeah, he would never do that. But honestly, I was kind of surprised that after it was revealed, quote unquote, that Hawkeye was the thief, everyone kind of just believed it. Everyone was like, oh, Hawkeye, I can't believe you.
Everybody.
And I was so surprised at that. Like, even Trapper was just like, oh my God, he wasn't talking to him. He was mad at him. I was like, really?
It was like he was being persecuted for a crime he didn't commit. Because after that, you know, Frank and Margaret immediately are like, all right, we're going to court-martial him on the slightest bit of evidence. And they're like, what? Like, Hawkeye and even Henry are like, hang on, let's wait just a second here. But then after that, I guess Henry assigns Radar to, like, track Hawkeye and just, like, make sure that he's not stealing anything. And just this whole bit with just Radar always being there, always being in the bushes was pretty good, too. And even the intercom guy, when they're like, all right, tonight's movie is going to be Les Miserables or Les Miserables. Like, he can't say the title. And it's like, Les Miserables, about a guy who stole something and is persecuted for it and has a very bad time. Kind of reminds us of our friend here, eh? And it's like, that's your takeaway for Les Miserables? That the guy who stole was in the wrong?
Yeah, I loved all the stealing jokes, all the theft jokes that came on over the intercom. That was really funny. I love the intercom humor that's used in this show. It's just, if you hear the lines from the intercom, it's just too funny.
That
it's
guy
great.
has such a funny voice because it's so like, hello friends. Like, it's just a little like, it just sounds like a little guy over the microphone. It's not an authoritative voice either. It's just a simple like guy talking, and I find that so funny.
I know, I love that. So for me, I guess like what kind of made me realize, okay, I guess I understand why people are mad at Hawkeye was when he had the encounter with Barbara, the nurse. He was trying to get her to go on a date with him, essentially. And she's like, oh, well, I think you did it. And I was so surprised. But then she said, you know, you're cynical and selfish, and outside of the OR, you really don't care about anybody but yourself. And I guess everyone thought that it was, you know, Hawkeye's this prankster, so he wants to get one over on everybody else. And then I guess they think that he just took it too far. I don't know. I was so just surprised.
Especially just for Trapper kind of believing that too. That was the line that I think was like maybe a little out of character. But everyone else being like, Hawkeye, of course he did it. Stealing stuff and like hiding it away could be like a prank or whatever. So it does kind of make sense. Mm-hmm. But again, like it did kind of make you feel bad. but
Yeah, it
also
made me feel
gave
sad.
Hawkeye the motivation to be like, all right, who actually did it?
Yeah, I was gonna say, then after that, though, he's just like, all right, I'm done with this. And I thought it was funny, when Radar was assigned to follow him, he hid in the bushes and he was yelling at Radar as the bush. And somebody walks by and he's like, oh, you can't even yell at your own bush nowadays.
You can't even yell at your own shrub anymore.
Yeah, it was so funny.
Yeah, this is a good episode. Most episodes we've talked about so far are just kind of us gushing over it, but I think this was like a real, just fun episode that we had a good time with.
If anything, though, I feel like this was more of a classic episode than Cowboy, but that's just me personally. But so then I know that you really liked this part when Hawkeye called everybody to the mess tent, all basically the main characters, to the mess tent, and was playing detective and kind of going around the room saying why each of them would have wanted to frame him. I thought that was so genuinely fun.
I'm just a sucker for that moment. I love these like sleuthy kind of things. I love the movie Clue. I love the movie Knives Out. I mean, that's like more of both of those are kind of parodies of detective things, but I just love the very simple, like, all right, get everybody in a room. It's usually a library, but in this case it was like the mess tent or something. And it's just like, all right, here's everybody's motivations, and they all kind of track until I say one thing that's like, wait a second, you are the one. I just love it. And I thought that Hawkeye's actual plan to get these to find the culprit was pretty clever, because before this he goes to Henry and like mingles with the intercom to like make sure that what their conversation is being heard or broadcasted. And he's like, come on, give me an hour with the stuff. I'm gonna find the fingerprint off of it. We're gonna find the guy, and this is broadcasted to everybody.
Yeah, to put the thief on notice that he's going to be found out, essentially. Yeah.
Later that night, the stuff is just gone, and Hawkeye's like, all right, I got him. So they do this library scene, for a lack of a better description, where he goes on everybody, and he's like, I coded it with the special material. I did not mark down what the phrase was, because it was like a fake scientific word for like a chemical.
Yeah, it was like a fake chemical that he said that would make everyone's fingers blue, or whoever took the stuff, it would turn their fingers blue.
And that part was funny too, because he was like, I coded it with hydromonoxyl globin.
And even Trapper's like, what the hell is that?
Yeah. They're all doctors, so reasonably they would know what this material is, because they probably used it before. And then, he's like, whoever took the stuff, it'll make your hands dyed blue. And, our boy Ho-John, which I don't know if we've mentioned him in this this discussion so far, but he checks his nails, and, it's over for him.
Yeah, so when Hawkeye says it'll turn the culprit's fingers blue, Ho-John immediately, puts his hands under him. And then I noted down, it was really sad, because Hawkeye's face was just so sad and disappointed when it was kind of revealed that it was Ho-John. Then Hawkeye walked over to Ho-John, and Ho-John was like, no, see, my fingers aren't blue. And Hawkeye says, yeah, because I was bluffing. It was never going to turn your fingers blue. That was kind of the point of saying, oh, it's going to turn your fingers blue, to see who hid their hands. And Ho-John did. And it was so sad. Everyone looked so sad too.
That's, I think, what makes this episode really good for me, is that this was a very goofy, fun episode. But it also, in the last, I guess, act, you would say, had this kind of genuine, real emotional moment. It wasn't too much or anything, but they did play at emotion, and I thought that worked really well. Hawkeye wasn't mad. He wasn't anything. He was just like, why did you do it? And it was just so kind of genuine that I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah, and the reason that he did it was just so sweet, too, because he wanted to bribe the border patrol for the North Koreans to allow his mom and his sister to come down to, South Korea, where it was safer, I guess. And he goes, well, I didn't think that you guys would miss that stuff because you're all so rich. And I thought that was so sweet, because obviously they don't consider themselves rich, and being in the army isn't this like, you don't get a really big salary. So of course they all seemed really rich to Hojan, who probably grew up in poverty and then, is in this war-torn country. And I thought it was so sad.
And in the beginning of the episode, they were playing poker for like $310. So like even that was set up where like $310, good chunk of change.
Yeah.
And I imagine to Hojan, that's a lot of money. That was just a good bit of like foreshadowing to where it's like you get why he thought they were rich. They took the time to like set that up in a very subtle way.
Yeah, and so at the end too, everyone just kind of feels bad, and they're like, "Oh, okay, Hojan, you can keep this stuff to have this money to bring your mom and sister down." And to me, this was like, MASH is sometimes criticized for kind of being devoid of like Korean people, essentially, and that the fact that it takes place in Korea and they don't mention Korean people that much. But to me, this was a reminder that to the audience that, yeah, it sucks being on the base and whatnot, or the unit, but it's not just the Americans that are involved, and like, the people whose country it actually is, they're affected by this too. So I just thought this genuinely like really kind moment was so sad and so sweet at the end too.
Yeah, I like that they weren't angry at Hojan at all. They were just like, why? Like, he is their friend. He's a part of their little family. They didn't like immediately make him like, oh, of course the foreigner took it.
Yeah.
He's just a genuine guy, and they genuinely like him. They want to take care of him, and they're like, hey, you could have told us, we would have helped you out. And he's just like, well, I didn't think he wanted to be dishonest with the border patrol, or whatever.
He was like, they said to him, why didn't you just ask for the money? We would have given it to you. And he says, well, I didn't think that you'd want me to be bribing the border patrol because bribery is dishonest. I was like, oh my God, Hojan, I love you.
Yeah.
It was really sweet.
When's that boy going to college?
Yeah, right. Yeah, and then so it kind of resolves from there, and it kind of turns into a funny moment when he says like, "Oh, it's kind of revealed that he was taking Hawkeye's his poker money,
poker winnings."
Yeah. So then it goes back to being just like a funny moment and stuff like that, because he says, "Oh, well, I need to bring my baby brother down and my uncle and all his extended family too," which again I'm sure is genuine. Like, you don't want your family being in North Korea.
Because, they've basically totally forgiven him for this. They're like, all right, you can take our stuff. And even Frank, like, who, was so like, my mother's silver frame, when they say, like, you can just take our stuff, he didn't protest that at all.
Yeah.
Like, when Margaret was like, you can take my brushes, I have other ones. Frank wasn't like, no, please, I need to keep my silver frame. He just didn't say anything.
Yeah.
So, Frank does have a good heart sometimes.
Sometimes. We can't like him that much, but in this scene, we can give him a pass for not being a jerk.
They've forgiven Hojan, and they're just like, all right, well, we're done here. He's listing off all his family members, and they're like, oh, it's just gonna be infinite. Let's just walk away.
Yeah, I liked
I thought that was cute.
That was essentially the end of the episode too. Yeah. I don't really have that much trivia for this episode because, not too much. But I will note that this is the first appearance of Radar's teddy bear, which we have already discussed, but also continuity error in this episode with Hojan, actually, because so in the first episode when they're sending Hojan to college and it's revealed that he got into college, Hojan goes, oh good, I have to go tell my folks, and then all of a sudden his mom's up in North Korea. Like, where did he run to then? In my mind, that means that his dad is down there with him or something, because I don't like continuity errors. That's one thing that bothers me about sitcoms, is that continuity errors are just all the time,
rampant.
Yes,
because it's all about like what's best for the episode, not what's best for the overall plot, especially in something this old where they did not expect you to watch every episode every week. No, I have a bit of trivia, actually.
Oh, okay.
So when Hawkeye's playing detective, Trapper throws out a reference to The Thin Man, which is this 1938 movie. And it's very famous for, it's a mystery movie, but it's also one of the first movies to have improv. And apparently how this was directed was that in order to get natural performances out of the actors, the director just filmed them when they thought they weren't on camera.
Oh, wow.
Like they were in character, like on doing the scenes, but they didn't think the cameras were rolling. So it got these really natural, like kind of fun performances. And it's one of those movies that it's nearly 100 years old now, but it's still considered to be a very modern feeling kind of movie because of the way that just the way it is performed. And I just wanted to mention that because it was a reference that I got. And I imagine that like that kind of natural performance kind of influenced how MASH maybe works.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's my bit of trivia, that Trapper referenced the movie, and I understood that reference. So I'm telling you all about that reference now.
That's really cool. I was going to look it up, but I just didn't hear what he said. I definitely didn't get that reference, but now I want to go watch that movie because I'm really genuinely curious.
Yeah, apparently it's really good.
That's awesome.
Because it's so old, you can just find it online for free.
Yeah.
It's on like the archive.org or something, and you could just watch it, and it's totally like legal. You can watch it whatever. I've heard so much about it being a movie dork that people are like, this is... If you want to watch old things and not have it feel old, watch The Thin Man. So I'm like, all right, cool.
That's really cool. I should definitely check it out.
So Vanessa, do you have any final thoughts on this episode before we start to, wrap up?
Yeah, I just really enjoyed this episode. It just felt so MASH to me. You know what I mean? It felt like sitcom-y, but it also made sense that it was for MASH. I also really liked, you don't get him a lot in the early episodes, but Father Mulcahy was in this episode, and I love him so much. He's so sweet, and he was trying to, lead Hawkeye on the right path because he believed also that he stole the items, and he tried to like hand him the Bible, and it turned out to be a dictionary. And I don't know, I just love Father Mulcahy so much.
I'm sure he had a Bible around here somewhere.
Yeah, like you'd think, you're a priest.
No, that was so fun. I like that bit a lot too. I'm excited to see more of that character because I know that he becomes more of a major player later on. And I think that having a priest in the unit is a pretty interesting character. So I just want to see how everything works out. Every time I watch the show, I'm like, I can't wait for it to get, like, good. Not that it's not good now, but I want to see them just be in a groove,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Father Mulcahy is truly one of my favorite characters. Love that.
I really like this one as well. I think you can just tell by the way I've been discussing it. I just had a good time watching this one, and... just good vibes,
Just good vibes in general. Loved this episode.
So, everybody, just to wrap up, we'd like to give thanks to Melissa, Vanessa's sister, for our awesome cover art. Thank you very much. Jacob Friar-Balco for being our technical consultant. You can check out his show, This Might Be a Radio Show, on Mixcloud. Links to our music and social media are in the description. And lastly, we'd like to thank you, our listeners. Just a quick heads up before we go, MASHmouth will be going on a short hiatus from December to January. This will give us a bit more time to work on the show, other projects, and enjoy the holidays. Don't worry, we'll be back promptly on January 14th, 2022. And in the meantime, we'll be doing a bonus episode discussing our favorite holiday specials from our favorite TV shows coming out on Christmas Eve. Thank you for listening. We truly appreciate you, and we cannot wait to be back early next year. Until then, goodbye, farewell, and amen.
Bye, everyone.